Hello again, it's now Friday. It's probably a completely different week to when I started this video, and these bags are very real because we've had a very busy week. The system's finished, it sounds great. Let me show you what it's got and then I'll just quickly try and explain what we did in the meantime.
Got ready for the night. She's heading for the light. She sees the vision going. Dropping line after line. See how she looks in trouble. See how she dances. She says the Coca-Cola. She can't tell the difference yet. That's what you're coming for, but they don't wanna let you in. You drop your back to the floor and you're asking what's happening. It's getting late now, ain't enough of the arguments. But she sips the Coca-Cola, she can't tell the difference yet.
So as far as I can tell on these, in America they had an 8 speaker option. In the UK it was just the basic 6 speaker option. So you've got a 6.5-inch woofer in both doors. On the dash, I've removed the grills already. You've got a small tweeter. The door speakers are wired from the tweeter, which is weird. So you unplug the tweeter and the door speakers stop playing. Usually it's the other way around. And there's plenty of room up on that dash for us to have a 4-inch mid in that location and to replace that tweeter with a slightly smoother sounding one. So they'll have a passive crossover between them. And then we'll have to have a separate speaker wire going down to the door, or what we'll probably do is retain the original speaker wire for that one to save going through the loom and run a separate speaker wire up to the dash so that we can have independent control of the time alignment and EQ of those two speakers. In the back it's got, I think, 3-inch, very small, poorly mounted speakers in the rear quarters. That when I disconnected the fronts and just played the rears, there was barely any audio output. So there's no bass information in that electrical output. They roll it off under 500, so if you're going to just try and add a subwoofer to this, you need to take it from the front speakers.
That's what you're coming for, but they don't wanna let you in. You drop your back to the floor, you're asking what's happening. It's getting late now, enough of the arguments.
Little speaker update for you. So the Audison AP1 tweeters, I thought the best way to install these are the underside of the grills that are in the dash. So, and that's the tweeter with the faceplate just kind of clipped off it. And then that's just about the right size that it wedges in there quite nicely. So we haven't had to cut or damage the original mounting at all. And that gets the tweeter as close to the face of the grill. When you look through there, it's a bit difficult to show on video, but it is as close to that grill as I can get it. And what I'm going to do is just use a little bit of hot glue so that if the customer ever wanted to go back to standard, a little bit of heat and then that hot glue will peel off. We can take the tweeters out and then we've got all the original mounting points for the OEM tweeters to clip back in there. So I'm going to hot glue these ones in. I'll wait for the abuse on social media. And that's the original speaker that's all kind of integrated with the mount, really lightweight, 186 grams. And the new speaker that I've got up here that's mounted onto the 3D printed mount. So rain guard still in place so that as the water kind of trickles through the window, it's not going to sit around the terminals. Speaker's actually mounted upside down. That's how it's going to sit in the door. But that means the terminals are up there hidden away nicely, and then all speaker tape on there so it seals to the door properly. And we're sitting at just over 1 kilogram of the new speaker, and that's the adapter, so then we can plug into the car without having to cut anything. So yeah, a bit of an addition in weight, but I'm fairly confident this will be worth it in terms of the sound, because those speakers, even when the door was sound deadened, just sounded terrible and kind of hollow and poppy and didn't really give much bass. Round in the cabin, not much has changed. It's been a bit of a funny old day. I was doing a security system on a Range Rover that took longer than I was expecting, but the mid-ranges are in. So that's fastened down with 3 fasteners. You don't get an awful lot of pressure through these or power. So I think 3 fasteners will be okay. I've seen other people online just doing 2, but we've managed to get 3 points in there, and that's nice and solid. And then that's the fly lead for the tweeters. which is, where's the tweeter? So the tweeter is on the back of the grille, and then that will sit over that section, like the driver's side, which I've got in. So you can just see the Audison logo through the grille, but that sits down nice and flush. The tweeter's up near the grille, which is nice, and then that sits down as it would have done before we started changing anything. The crossovers just cable tied down here, and the wires run up inside the dash to this point here. We've used all Toyota kind of style clip connections, so nothing's really been modified, so everything can go back to standard. Oh, the other thing I'll show you quickly is just the SOS speaker, where we've relocated it, because obviously the SOS speaker was mounted there. The SOS speaker is now just, we just made a tiny little hole, and there's a threaded kind of insert in the back of the magnet, so that's now just housed inside this space next to where the glove box goes, and extended the wiring down to that. So okay, it's not going to be playing up through the vent anymore, but at least it's still there. It's not going to show any error codes. We've routed the power cable through, so that's up into the engine bay ready for fusing. Goes through, you can't quite see it down there, but there's a factory grommet point that we managed to get it through. So again, nothing drilled, and it's all going to be nice and waterproofed. That's it for tonight. Don't know if we'll get much done on it tomorrow. Still got to run signal from the head unit down to the back again, which I've got this adapter for. I'm gonna have to chop the adapter up a bit to link into it, but importantly that's got the plugs on it that I need to send the signal back down to the amp at the back, and then the amplified signal up to the front again. Yeah, that's it for tonight. Hopefully get it wrapped up in the next couple of days and back to the customer, because he's been quite understanding that it's taken a while on this one, I'm afraid. So the car's back together. We finished it late last night, and I've just been tuning it this morning. The head unit is back in. The front channels, left and right channels, we've taken those with an adapter all the way back to the amplifier. In the front, we've got the Audison Prima 6.5 inch. That sits on a custom printed baffle. On the dash, you've now got the Audison Prima 4 inch and an Audison Prima 1 inch. So that all comes in the Audison Prima kit. The crossovers for that are hidden behind there and then run up. Sound deadening in the doors, so we've been sympathetic with that, not gone crazy like we do on some cars. Not crazy, but obviously this is about lightweight and the customer's still focused on that. And in the boot, everything's hidden under the floor, so you haven't lost any space at all. And with the customer's permission, we modified the insert that sits under the boot. So that's a Helix M4 DSP, 4 channels at 100 watts per channel. We've fused it ready for if he is going to have a sub in the future, so we can just add another little fuse block on there and run probably round to this side for the M1, or have it in that center housing, and there's enough space under there to have a nice slim sub under the boot carpet as well. And then once that's down, you won't see anything. There will be no loss of boot space, so that's a great little option as well. So it's a nice tidy install, one that can be done to any of these GR86. There's a few little quirks with the audio. There's quite a lot of time delay from the factory head unit you have to kind of get around. The actual EQ out of it isn't too bad, so there's a little bit of tweaking on that, and then the post-processing that we do to all the speakers anyway, just to kind of give those a nice level sound and take the peaks out. On the weights thing, I've got a list of all the weights of the products that we've put into it. At some point I will put up all the weights of everything that have gone into this car and the weights of things that have come out, so we can work out what the net gain is for this car, for this system. The standard audio system, and the way that they just treat the door with that plastic is pretty awful. So the actual improvement and the benefit you get from this audio system is massive. Even without the sub, it sounds great. And to be honest, with the sub, there's probably a lot more sound deadening you need to do to kind of take out any rattles from the back. So this sounds great. We'll see what the customer thinks. If he wants to come back for a sub in the future, we'll add that and we'll try and document it. So running the system without the amplifier, just with doing the sound deadening to the door and then adding the Audison Prima 6.5 inch and the tweeter. The benefits of just doing the sound deadening and adding the speakers, it allows you to turn that bass up without getting any distortion from the speaker, or obviously any rattle from the door or that bit of plastic shaking around. The stock speaker, they're terrible. I've got one here. Here. It weighs barely anything. I mean, that's good from a weight point of view, but from a sound point of view, there's no magnet. This surround, you could see it distorting as the speaker was trying to press. It was creasing and going horrible all over the place, and you could kind of hear that reflected in the sound. As soon as you tried to play anything with any bass, it just sounded like the speaker wasn't working properly. So even without amplifying the system, it is still worthwhile putting some decent speakers in there, doing this better sound deadening. You will hear an improvement. There's then a better improvement from going for a 3-way kit because you get more low range up on the dash. So once I added the 4-inch, put all the crossovers in, again, without an amplifier, you can hear that soundstage raise up to kind of the dash level, so you get more of the vocals up on the dash. Obviously, you can't do anything about EQ in the system still because we haven't got an amplifier, and it still is being pushed from the head units. There is still some distortion coming out of that standard head unit, especially above 25, 26 on the volume scale, because it's barely putting out any power, that head unit, so you do still hear some distortion. Then moving on to the system with the amplifier, obviously we've added an amplifier with a DSP in it, which we much prefer, but even if you were to put an amplifier in without a DSP, that's massively going to help out because that standard head unit is all very underpowered, which I think I read somewhere was only putting out about 16 watts at full power in the bass range. Adding an amplifier is going to give you a lot more clean power to the speakers, which then aren't going to distort. What we've got in it now, the amplifier with the DSP, has allowed me to correct some of that manufacturer time alignment that's in the car, get that center image. So when you're driving, you don't just hear the sound coming from that one speaker. It sounds like it's coming nice and evenly across the dash, and the vocals are in the middle of the dash, which is what you want. And then EQ the system, take out the peaks from the very high notes which are being reflected off the window screen, and just kind of balance out the bass that still sounds a bit poppy in those doors. And now it's EQ'd, really nice sounding system.
See how she lets it drop. See how she dances and she sips the Coca-Cola. She can't tell the difference. She can't tell the difference.
Anyway, that's just a quick demo. Probably can't hear much through the phone. Put some headphones on. Loads more bass, no rattles, nice high soundstage. If you have any questions on these, feel free to drop me a line. CambridgeAutosound.com is our website. audio@CambridgeAutosound is the email address. We're on social media. We try and make these videos interesting so you can see what goes into it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.